All right. Thanks everyone for joining the Future Proof podcast. I'm here with Brad Nelson. He is the CEO at FRCS Tech. They are a US based IT and MSP servicing small and mid-sized businesses. Why don't you introduce yourself real quick and just tell us a little bit about why don't you just tell us a little bit about FRCS?
Okay. Yeah. My name is Brad Nelson, and I've been in IT for a long time. And last year, founded this business, FRCS Tech, to help businesses manage their IT and cybersecurity. They noticed a lot of small and mid-sized businesses just kind of patch together their IT, and they usually will have a staff member or two that is somewhat tech savvy, and they use that as their IT support. And that causes a lot of problems. So I started this to kind of help businesses shore up their IT so that they can be more efficient and also stay secure as well, because a lot of small businesses are also the target of cybersecurity or of cyber threats, and they don't even realize it.
I didn't have this question in mind, but kind of it sparked it in my head. So as you're reaching out to small businesses or mid-sized businesses, what big problems or issues, bottlenecks or problems are you seeing in their current IT setup or the lack thereof? Maybe they don't even have, maybe they're using McAfee or whatever they call it, the free version from T-Mobile you get. What are you seeing there?
Yeah, the biggest things that we see with businesses we're reaching out to is like you said, it's mostly the lack of anything as far as security in place or anything as far as policies and procedures in place. We see businesses all the time that don't employ basic security measures like strong password policies and multi-factor authentication. And so, yeah, the other major thing we see too is businesses, they don't know any better, but they will go and they'll buy whatever's on sale at Costco to supply their employees with computers or with network hardware, and they don't know how to set it up properly. And then they run into compatibility issues with software they're trying to use, but they're trying to use consumer grade computers rather than business grade computers. And they'll be running Windows Home Edition instead of Windows Professional Edition. The other thing is they don't know what they don't know.
I mean, if you're starting a new business, you don't really know how to start a business. You're not really thinking, honestly, IT and your cybersecurity threat levels is not really on the top of your list, which it should be, but you're really more focused on like growing your business, getting ready, getting your email together, getting all of your like servers together, getting your cloud files, set up and ready, but overlooking the security, especially if you're working with sensitive, client information, is super important. Because I think I heard a stat where it's like 80% of businesses that go through a cybersecurity attack or an infiltration, I think they're closed within like 6 months after that. So not only is it your livelihood starting a business, but it's also your reputation as well.
Right. Well, there's a lot of people that are really good at starting and running businesses, and they understand the operations or how to create a product or a service and push it out there and generate value for their customers. But oftentimes things like technology and security are afterthoughts. They don't understand that an outage from your IT infrastructure, if it's not strong enough, an outage can cost you tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars because you're losing productivity, you're losing potential revenue, you're potentially losing customer trust. And like you said, that can destroy your business in a short amount of time.
Yeah. So I know you guys, when you're starting this business, what type of clientele are you typically working with right now? What size business and what industries are they in? Are you focused on any certain industry? Or are you guys open to working with basically kind of any mid-size like B2B business?
Yeah, we usually work with businesses between 10 and 100 employees that use computers regularly. And we're generally working with businesses in the construction, healthcare, and finance industries, but we have some customers that are outside those industries as well. Like, for example, we have a local charity that is one of our customers, and they provide services for people in need, and that's outside of our normal industries. But we work with basically anybody.
Yeah, anyone but you kind of niche down on like the healthcare, financial things like that. So if I was starting a new, maybe a finance company or a new company in that sector, and I wanted to come to you guys to kind of help you or help me start that up, what type of processes are you going? What are you looking for, and what services can you help with that type of customer?
Well, with a finance customer, so financial firms and financial businesses, like tax services, banks, investment firms, whatever, they're dealing with a lot of sensitive information, and they're dealing with other people's money, and it's important to keep that all secure. And so usually when we onboard that sort of client, we start with looking at, okay, what sort of policies do you have in place to help keep this data secure? Because,
Yeah.
it's if you aren't keeping your customers' data secure or your own data secure, it can really easily get leaked, or you can have a data breach, or one small, an employee accidentally clicks on a phishing link, and then all of a sudden, all of your customers' personal information is out there for sale on the dark web. So having solid policies and policy enforcement is usually where we start, and then we look at implementing actual software and hardware to help keep them secure. But the human element is where we see a lot of data breaches and stuff come from. And one of the ways to solve that is through strong policies.
Got it. Now, are you able to help a new business that's just starting with like certain policies and trainings and things like that?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And we help all the way from just the basic help desk stuff, like you can't print or your email isn't working, all the way up to the high level creating policies and discussing how it looks to enforce these and how it looks to constantly be training your employees to follow your policies exactly.
Early on in your career, even starting this business or even prior, businesses, there are some like learning examples or mistakes that you've made. You can kind of, share with us that can help people that are doing the same thing kind of avoid those same mistakes.
Yeah. So before this business, a handful of years ago, I owned a computer repair shop in Washington State. And we did some of the same stuff that we're doing now in FRCS Tech, but we didn't quite understand it as deeply back then. One of our business clients was a small insurance business in the town that we were in, very small, only 3 employees, and they had a desktop computer for each one of their employees, and then a server that they kept all of their files and stuff on. We had set up their computers to back up to that server just in case there was some sort of failure. Then we could restore their information. What we didn't account for is that their entire setup could get compromised. And what happened is they ended up having this was back when the WannaCry ransomware thing was huge, and they got infected with WannaCry ransomware, all 3 of their computers and their server. And all of their data was encrypted, and we couldn't get any of it back. Now, if we would have written a solid backup plan and backed up their server offsite, then we could have recovered everything. Unfortunately, that wasn't possible. But fortunately, they also kept paper records because they were kind of old school. So they were able to rebuild their data, but it took way longer than it should have.
Interesting. So what are you for that typical client? Let's just say now fast forward to this time, same client, same time frame. What are you doing completely different? How are you going to set up that infrastructure and that backup to where that's not going to be an issue for your clients?
Well, we always start with a written procedure for that sort of thing. So for the backup, we always have a plan set out where it's these computers and this data is getting backed up to these locations at these times. And we always follow what's called the 3-2-1 backup rule, where you have 3 copies of your data. You have the master copy, you have a backup on-site, and you have a backup off-site. And that, if we would have followed that rule back then, like I said, we wouldn't have had the issue with that customer that we did.
Got it. Well, it's important to learn from the mistakes, but then also, what you're doing now, obviously those mistakes and those old habits are not going to come back to a client, or you can use those to kind of, teach and grow other companies to not get in that same kind of predicament as well.
Yeah, and we always, whenever we make a mistake like that, we always take a look at the situation and we write a document that we call a correction of errors. And we basically go over what happened, what went wrong, and what are we going to change to make sure it doesn't happen again in the future. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a few different ways that we're getting customers right now. One of the main ways is word of mouth from our current customer base. And we do some cold outreach where we will cold call or cold email or cold message people. And then we are also currently working on building more of an inbound lead flow with been posting educational content on YouTube and other social media platforms, just trying to provide value to people before they even work with us to try to interest them in contacting us to help further with their IT and cybersecurity stuff.
What differentiates you guys from other IT companies? What are you offering or what are you doing that sets yourself apart from any type of other company that offers the same exact stuff that you guys do?
Well, there's a few things. As far as our main core offer of our managed IT services, we are 100% USA based. We don't offshore anything. A lot of other MSPs will offshore their help desk because it's cheaper. We kind of pride ourselves on when you call us or send in a help desk ticket, the person that picks up the phone or gets that ticket is based here in the United States. They speak fluent English and they know what they're talking about. We also don't hire any help desk technicians per se. Like, normally you'll have your traditional level 1, 2, and 3, where your level 1 is just somebody with very base technical knowledge that's reading off of a script when, they talk to you on the phone. But when you call here, you talk to somebody who has experience and can actually help you with your problem right away. So we also don't use any sort of robot on our support lines as well, where you call in and you get so many different menus or talk to an AI chatbot. You're talking to a real person whenever you call. Now we have a specific support line for our customers so that's not public, so that we just don't get inundated with spam on that line. But yeah, the other thing that sets us apart is our pricing model. Oftentimes other MSPs, they will give you some sort of base monthly fee. And then if you have extra things that you need help with, they charge so much per hour for troubleshooting IT problems. For us, we give you unlimited IT support for a flat monthly fee, no exceptions. So, and then the other thing is on our cybersecurity side, we have some offers that are a little bit unique. We offer things like adversarial simulations, which is kind of like a penetration test on steroids. We also do physical pen testing as well.
Okay. Any other type of, what other services are kind of included in that fully managed IT other than, what you have on your website? Is there anything that's listed on there that you kind of want to highlight that really you think is a huge value add to people?
Well, I mean, we're like an outsourced IT department. We're like having an entire IT department in your business, from the help desk technicians to the network engineers to having like a CTO. Everything from fixing your computer when you can't print all the way up to the high level strategy and planning for the future to make sure you don't outgrow your IT, and also so that you're not overspending on your IT.
Yeah, so you're almost like partnering with them to give them extra value, kind of really inundate yourself into their business and just be part of that, but also not being a direct entity of their business. Yeah, that's good. What has been like what's been the hardest or the biggest bottleneck for you guys to really scale?
I think it's the learning, like the marketing and advertising piece of it. So I'm a tech guy, not a marketing guy or an advertising guy. And back, I've had my computer repair shop before, but it's a lot easier when you have my computer repair shop. It was easier to advertise and market because I had an actual storefront, and I could say, come by our store and come in here and we have computers for sale. And if your grandma has viruses on her computer, we can fix that. Now with this business, we have an office and everything, but our clientele's very different, and it's not like we can say, oh yeah, come into our office. If we're in Montana and you're in Florida, you can't just walk in and talk to us. So trying to figure out exactly how to effectively market our business has probably been the biggest bottleneck. We just want to do IT stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Not worry about that. I mean,
Yeah.
so we'll talk about that. Like what you want to do. What's your favorite part of your job? If you could just do one thing all day and focus on that, like what are you really focusing on? What is Brad going to do with his time, while you're working?
For me personally, I think my favorite stuff is whenever, and this might sound kind of bad because, we pride ourselves on being able to prevent a lot of cybersecurity incidents, but nothing is bulletproof and things squeak by. But I think my favorite thing is whenever one of our customers has some sort of cyber threat or cybersecurity incident, is going through and picking up the pieces and figuring out what happened, who did it, and how we can recover from that.
Well, yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, there's no way for you to like any business to be 100% bulletproof, because at the end of the day, one of the most or the easiest way for hackers or someone to infiltrate a business is going to be from like social engineering or phishing or something like that, to where you're relying on your people, your employees, to be the ones that actually stop the threat and not let them in. From your guys' standpoint, I mean, there's just no way for you to be, to stop it 100%, but where you're going to shine and separate yourselves is how you attack that problem, fix it, and then make sure that it never happens again for those businesses.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's just kind of exciting when, like just last month, we had a customer that one of their employees clicked on a malicious attachment in an email, and the malicious attachment was able to steal his login credentials for his email. And so then the attacker got into this guy's business email account and then was sending out spam from his email account to everybody in his contact list to try and spread this malicious attachment. And we were able to get in there. And kick them out and all that within like 45 minutes. But it's just kind of exciting. You get the call and it's like, we've got one. Let's go get the bad guys,
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I mean, I've dealt with it with all the different businesses that I've been a part of, grown, started, or, back in the corporate day. It's just, it's every single day, multiple times a day. You're getting all these emails with like phishing and malicious links and things like that. So what are you doing for clients to, on the back end of it, try to limit the ones that actually get through to their employees if they were going to use you? What are you actually doing to stop that?
I mean, there's two big things. The first one is making sure that everybody is using multi-factor authentication. That stops a lot of attacks. So even if somebody, and that's partially this customer, they, at least for that employee, did not have multi-factor authentication set up. And so like he didn't have to open his authenticator app to log into his email or whatever. So that was something that we then went through and audited all of their accounts and made sure everybody was using multi-factor authentication. So that is kind of a first line of defense. But the more important thing to prevent that sort of thing from happening is training the employees to spot phishing emails. And they're getting really sophisticated, especially with AI tools and large language models. Used to get the Nigerian prince emails saying that he was going to leave you $95 million or whatever. But nowadays, it's getting a lot easier to do spear phishing campaigns where they're really targeted. So like this one, the guy got an email from another person's email that he knew, which ended up being compromised as well, from another company. And the email just said, hey, we're working on this project. Can you look at this proposal? And so it seemed super legit, but there were some things about it that were off, just like the tone of the email. I think the attachment name didn't even say anything about being a proposal or anything like that. Having good cybersecurity training for your employees will prevent a lot of bad things from happening like that.
Yeah. I can go through a couple of examples in my head of like things that have happened, especially on like when finance and things like that, where I think I can remember one where they're doing like the texting you, saying that we need a gift card from like the owner of the company, and to do that, like that wasn't even really an IT security breach. That's just more of a, yeah, they're just trying to get money, but like little things like that. And then all the way up to, yeah, like very direct spear phishing to where they're using even like signatures and getting emails from those people, impersonating them, sending links, and then trying to get those people to click on it, which, you know, if you're not really thinking about IT and you don't have a good policy to where you're, you know, having your employees train like 2 times a year on, you know, phishing and spear phishing, and they're not thinking about it, or you have a new employee that's never been in any type of role like that and doesn't even know about it, how are they going to know if you don't onboard them with that type of training, and you're just going to be, you know, kind of open, leave the door open for, you know, attack? Because I bet you, do do hackers know or can really highlight maybe new employees that are coming on board? Is there any way for them to know who's new in your organization and kind of target them? Or is that something that, you know, might not be a possibility?
Well, it depends on the organization. I'm sure that you could definitely do that through open source intelligence. So if you see somebody on LinkedIn and they're like, "Hey, I just got a job at this company. I start next week. I'm super excited." It's like, okay, well, there you go. You know that person is a new employee. So
And that's more like what, social engineering,
yeah, well, yeah, open source intelligence. Yeah,
open source intelligence. Okay. All
yeah.
right. What so for you guys as a business, for maybe any other or the clients that you use, for kind of what is like a must-have tool that you guys use daily?
Right now, we are using one of our main tools is an RMM called Atera, and it makes a lot of things really easy. It allows us to create a patching schedule and patch computers regularly, and then also monitor. We have alerts set up so that if certain things, like somebody's using 95% of the RAM in their computer, we'll get an alert, and then we look into, okay, is something going wrong with this computer, or is it just that this person needs more RAM in their computer to do their job, that sort of thing. But we use a lot of different tools, but that's kind of that's our main one right now, that just allows us to monitor everything and keep everything up to date. Yeah.
Yeah, and then AI, it's a big thing for me. I bet you guys have used it, leveraged it, talked about it. Where do you see AI really either impacting, you know, what you do on a daily basis, or helping improve what you do?
Well, right now we're using it to help automate things. Some people will call it vibe coding, but
Yeah.
even just not necessarily having an LLM write code for us too, but just helping us stay organized with the stuff that we are writing. The other thing that I could see it doing is eventually, I know a lot of, like I said earlier, we're kind of against this a little bit, but there are a lot of businesses like ours that will use it as their first level of help desk, and you get that AI agent when you call, and it'll say like, have you tried turning it off and on again? Are you sure it's on? Are you sure it's plugged in? That kind of thing.
Yep.
And I can see how that it's like a first layer of defense. And I think we're going to see even more of that. And it's probably going to get better, and it's going to become more useful, but it's definitely not the same as talking to a person.
No, I definitely agree. Is there anything that you see, kind of maybe like last question we'll really talk about, is do you see AI impacting your customers more negatively, like maybe opening up the door for more attacks, or being exposed for maybe clients putting in information that they shouldn't be in LLMs and things like that? Are you guys like creating policies or thinking of like avenues to really kind of like talk to your clients about potential threats that way?
Yeah. So most of our current clients aren't really using AI tools that much, but that is something that we've talked about internally a lot. I saw an article not too long ago talking about how businesses are putting in, like you said, sensitive information into these public LLMs. They'll just put it right into ChatGPT or Claude or something. And that's a security risk. And there definitely needs to be a policy around that sort of thing. And you can run your own private LLMs and stuff locally, or, on a cloud server that you're using through Azure or AWS or whatever. And that would be a more secure way to do it. But yeah, AI is one of those things. It's a double-edged sword. I think there are a lot of things that are good about it. It's making people's lives more efficient, and it's helping sift through a lot of things that we used to have to do manually.
Yeah.
but it could also be extremely dangerous, especially if you're not being careful with what data you feed it and in what way.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, where can listeners find you? Kind of how can they request an assessment? I know they can go right to your website and sign up and get started now. But what's the easiest way for them to contact you?
Yeah, that's basically the easiest way is just go to the website and fill out the form. It's frcstech.com. Or, I mean, you can find us on many social media platforms like YouTube, or I'm on LinkedIn. Well, the business is on LinkedIn too. And just reach out. Or I guess you could email info@frcstech.com as well.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks so much, Brad, for joining me. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you, Alex.